Your thoughts on prenups and how would you approach? So, what are your thoughts on prenups and how would you approach it, or what advice would you give as far as for a woman that may be wealthy, well off, and they're looking to get married?
Get a prenup, because I didn't have one, and that's why I ended up having to just give everything away, because it's so, let me just speak, it's so whack right now that men, can come at you and get, and get alimony.
That must be awful. Could you imagine that? That must be terrible. That you can marry someone, then after the marriage is over, they could come at you and take money from you after y'all are done dealing with each other. You gotta pay them. This person gets paid to leave you. That is terrible. A rational, reasonable, logical person can analyze the situation and say that this situation is wrong regardless of their personal positioning. That's what a reasonable, rational, or even a moral person has the ability to do. An immoral person lacks the ability to come to the right conclusion when they're not personally affected by it. Whenever you hear somebody say, I don't care, that don't bother me. Now when it comes to your own personal living your normal life and going about your business and doing what you got to do for you and yours, it's okay to have that approach. But if somebody asks your opinion on a larger issue, you should be able to think and say, and analyze it and see if it makes sense. I don't live in China or wherever they got child labor factories. But if it is true that they got 8-year-old kids in those factories putting in 14-hour work days, I'm not in danger of being in one of those factories. My kids are not in danger of being in one of those factories. And my grandkids will never be in danger of being in one of those factories. Don't affect me. But if you ask me my opinion on it, oh yeah, it's absolutely 100% wrong. And if they tried to implement it in this country, I would fight and vote against it. And if I had a say in whether or not other countries could or should do it, part of me don't want to dip my toe in the business of other countries, but my general opinion is like, no, you can't practically enslave kids. That ain't right. That's what a moral, clear thinking, rational, reasonable person does. There's a lot of stuff that don't affect me, but when I analyze it, put it like this. When it comes to more, we having a discussion about moral philosophy right now. The way that you can find out somebody, like if you ask somebody, is slavery wrong? Okay. The person who tries to rationalize that slavery is not wrong, you ask them the question in this context. Okay, we're going to set up a governmental system. That system is going to involve slavery. Okay. You don't know where you're going to be at in this system. You don't know if you're going to be the master, the overseer, the slave owner, or just some person who owns land, in some other part of the country that don't necessarily have slavery. You don't know where you're going to be in the system, but the system of slavery is going to be there. You don't get to pick your positioning. Okay. Do you create that system if you don't get to pick where you rank in it? Chances are most reasonable, rational, moral people will say no. I'm being long-winded in explaining this because I'm really trying to break down how women for years sat silently, idly by, and it never even occurred to them, wait, that don't make sense, taking that much money from somebody after y'all not together, regardless of what they did in the relationship. They could lie on you, cheat on you, they could be a horrible human being and then leave you, and then you got to pay for them after the fact. It's like they sat idly by, not even having an iota of thought, not an ounce of thought, saying that hey, this ain't right. This don't make sense. This don't add up. The mere fact that they have to be like you shouldn't have to be at the brink of getting thrown into a lake, getting thrown into a swimming pool with alligators before you can say, wait a minute, throwing somebody in a swimming pool with alligators is wrong. But that's what she's doing right now. That's what's happening.
Just give everything away because
Get married.
get a prenup because I didn't have one, and that's why I ended up having to just give everything away because it's so. Let me just speak. It's so whack right now that men, can come at.
Look at the emphasis that she put on the word men. She didn't say it's so whack that people can do this. She's saying it's whack that men can do this. They're equal. They're I am woman. Hear me roar. But you men are men. Men doing this to women who fought for equality, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, to be able to chase all their dreams and be successful and be all they can be, and strong boss bitches that don't need you men. How dare you men do to us what we've been doing to you, y'all men, who we are equal to and could perform just as well as and make just as much money as. But how dare you men do what we're doing?
Let me just speak. It's so whack right now that men, can.
I'm sorry, I'm about to let the rest of the clip play, but you just got to hear the contempt. You could just hear the contempt in her voice when she said men.
Men, can right now that. Oh, let me just speak. It's so whack right now that men, can come at you and get and get alimony. So when I was getting a divorce, I was like, you mean to tell me I got to pay him? And he cheated and he lied and he stole and not to get all petty, but you know what I'm saying? You mean I got to pay him for cheating and lying to me and ruining my life? So yeah.
That must be awful. That must be awful. But again, where were you for years when that action was happening regularly? Where were you? Where was your voice? Where were you speaking up? It's like if you have to be thrown in a pit with alligators in order to know that throwing people in pits with alligators is wrong, you are a morally corrupt person. Like, these are very simple conclusions. She's describing what's wrong with no-fault divorce. She's talking about somebody who cheated and stole and did all kind of horrible stuff. Why should the person who didn't do those things have to pay for the person that did? Like that is she's making the no-fault divorce argument, the argument against no-fault divorce. She's making the argument against it.